we are live.
We can go live?
Yeah. Talk to Silvia.
Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Wow, so much go shot. What's that?
We are live.
God. And Madiam Wapanya Yarushalam. Stand and face Jerusalem. Abanawa.
Abanawa.
Shabashamayam.
Shabashamayam.
Quadash.
Quadash.
Haya.
Haya.
Shamka.
Shamka.
Yahawa.
Yahawa.
Malakwaka.
Malakwaka.
Taba'a.
Taba'a.
Ratazaka.
Ratazaka.
Haya.
Haya.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Ba'arataza.
Ba'arataza.
Kawa.
Kawa.
Haya.
Haya.
Bashamayam.
Bashamayam.
Natanlanawa.
Nathanawa.
Lakam.
Akham.
Kal.
Kal.
Yawam.
Yawam.
Wasalak nawa.
Salakanawa.
Kabawak nawa.
Wathanawa.
Kasalak nawa.
Salakanawa.
Kabawak nawa.
Wathanawa.
Wala'a.
Wala'a.
Tabaya anawa.
Tabayanawa.
Manasayawan.
Manasayawan.
Abal.
Abal.
Hawashanawa.
Hawashanawa.
Mayan.
Mayan.
Rai.
Rai.
Kaya.
Kaya.
Laka.
Laka.
Hamalakwa.
Hamalakwa.
Waha'ala.
Waha'ala.
Wahatapa'ara.
Wathapara.
Da'awalamya.
Abulamya.
Ba'asham.
Bahashem.
Amashiach.
Amashiach.
Da'awashai.
Yahawashi.
Tawara.
Sawada.
Aman.
Amen. The book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahawashai, Thawada, from Yad, Amen.
Aman. Yashabiam. Be seated. You can read from down there?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay. All praise to the Most High by Shamash Gawashai, the water Yahweh by Shamash Gawashai for another Shabbat day, where Israel can come together in holy convocation as per the covenant that the Most High made with Israel, his chosen nation, or for fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We are the land of Zion, located down there in South Florida, 2937 West Broward Boulevard. I'm Elder Lapalan. My reader is going to be Captain Yakinen.
Yes, sir.
And done. Today's topic we're gonna we just came out of Passover, and then very soon I'm gonna be having the so-called Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks. So I'm gonna kind of follow up and the Passover and reflect on how that nation of Israel came to existence. How the nation came to be, established, a chosen nation. So today's topic, we're going to call it the birth of a chosen nation, and how that nation came into existence. Because Israel, even though it's a chosen nation of the Most High, was not the first nation on earth. As a matter of fact, before Israel was in existence, there were many established nations. So, you could even call them superpowers on earth. Understand? Israel, as you know, is a grandson of Abraham. and is the son of who? Isaac. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to reflect in how the Most High established the nation of Israel. So let's start off with it. Colossians 3 verse 17. All right.
The book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Adonai HaMashiach, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Him.
Right. Whatever you do in word or deed, make sure they're consistent with the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and the teaching of the Mashiach Yahushua. Alright? Right. We're going to start off, we could say in the beginning, at least in the beginning of the book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 13.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know for a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs.
Right, that's what the Most High said to Abram. Notice the spelling, A-B-R-A-M. That's what Abram. That's what his name was, Abram, A-B-R-A-M. And the Most High said to him, know for a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. So the Most High was telling Abram right there that, hey, the seed which is not even born yet is going to be brought up in exile in a land that is foreign to them. Read on.
The book of Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know for a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Wow. I wonder how Abraham felt at that time. It's that kind of like a bittersweet. Because Abraham, I was like over 90 years old, always wanted a child, especially a son. But he didn't have one. But the Most High said to him, know for a surety that your seed shall be in a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them. So your seed is going to be what? A slave, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So I guess Most High said to Abraham, I got good news and bad news for you. Yes, you're going to have a seed. And the seed is going to grow up. But guess what though? Your seed is not going to grow up in a land that is yours. It's going to grow up in a land that is a stranger. Among strangers. And your seed shall be slaves to that nation. And they shall be afflicted, not 4 days or 4 months or 4 years or 40 years, but 400 years. Abraham was like, wow, damn. Can you imagine how Abraham felt? The good news is that, yes, you're going to have a seed, but there's a price I got to pay. My seed got to pay to be a nation. That's how the Most High scripted it. So a lot of people may say, you hear them talk about all the time, so if the Most High is righteous, why are people suffering? Why is there so much evil on the earth? Why are people being killed? Why is there so much violence? How come one nation is ruling and another is in servitude to that nation or to those nations? That's what the Most High, scripted it, so to speak. Because the Most High is telling Abram right now what was gonna, and the Most High said, and Abram is a friend of the Most High. But the Most High said that Abraham was gonna happen to his seed after him. So obviously the seed wasn't even born yet. Wasn't even born yet. So the seed could not have done anything good or evil. But the Most High deeded that what? They shall serve the enemies or strangers for what? For 400 years. So the Most High can do whatever he pleases. The Most High can have one person ruling and another in servitude. Because we are all what? Creatures of the Most High. You got something?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The book of Psalm, chapter 115 and verse 3. But our power is in the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased.
Right. Our power is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he has pleased. So the Most High can do whatever he wants to do. Even if you don't understand that. Even if you don't so-called approve of it. That's the Most High's call. Now you know that scripture about the potter and the clay. Yeah, we just clay in the potter's hand. For the potter to form the clay however he pleases.
The book of Genesis, yes, let me read it again. The book of Psalm, chapter 115 and verse 3. But our power is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased.
Right. So the Most High's action doesn't have to conform to yours. That Most High says what? His thoughts are not your thoughts. Understand? You may even ask, how come one nation is chosen above other nations? Because that's what the Most High deems it. Most High deemed it. That's what the Most High orchestrated it. That's what the Most High scripted it. If the Most High spare, how come he got one nation in slavery and another nation ruling over them? When the nation in slavery didn't even commit any didn't even transgress or violate the Most High. That's what the Most High scripted. Go back to Genesis 15.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge.
See that? So is it fair now? The Most High said that nation whom they shall serve will he judge. So that nation is not going to get away with ruling with vigor over the Most High's chosen people for 400 years. Read on.
And afterward shall they come out with great substance.
Is that a compensation? Is that a reconciliation? The Most High said what? And afterward shall they come out with great substance. So they're going to serve the nation for 400 years. And after the 400 years, they're going to come out with great substance. And that nation will the Most High judge. Read on.
Verse 15, the book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
Right, so that's the Most High talking to Abraham. You shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall die. You know what? You're not going to have any issues. You're not going to have medical issues. You're not going to have any, any violence that you can't handle. In a hardship in life. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age, and you shall live a long life. Read on.
But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
This is kind of interesting. This is something that we should reflect on. What in the Most I say, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again. Who's are they? His seed, Abram's seed. The nation that shall serve, his seed which shall serve the nations in the strange land. It said what? But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again. You know what? They shall come from the strange nation again. And the amount of time that they should serve that nation is contingent on what? On the amount of the extent of the amount of transgression and the Most High allows the heathens to transgress before he decides to punish them. What did it say? Read verse 16 again.
Verse 16, the book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 16. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
See that? So the Most High said what? In the fourth generation, Abram's seed, which shall serve the strange nation for 400 years, shall come out from that strange land again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So the time span that Abram's seed serve that strange nation is dependent on how much iniquity or the fulfillment of the iniquity that the Amorites shall commit. So that's still to know right there that the Most High has a level of tolerance. I said that's too much. That he anticipates the extent of the iniquity. I mean, and we can just imagine that. We can just put that into perspective in today's time. Because right now, we are Abram's seed. We are Abram's seed right now, serving a strange nation. Even though this nation that didn't belong to these people we're serving, it belongs to one of the tribes of Israel, the Gadites, so-called native Indians. But we are serving them nonetheless because our enemies are ruling right now. And when the Most High decides to take us out from this nation, is dependent on what? The amount of iniquity that this sinful kingdom has committed. You got something? Go ahead.
The book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 22. Mm-hmm. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I.
Right. We are Hebrews, we are Israelites, and we are the seed of Abraham. Understand? And we are serving the nations in America and just about in all the nations of this earth. And we see wickedness increasing on a large level. And this is kind of ironic. But you know what I'm saying? When we see iniquity increasing, it should vex our spirit. In one context, it should vex our spirit because we see that's totally against the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. But at the same time, we should know as spiritual beings, hey, when iniquities increase, that's when the Most High is getting ready to destroy this kingdom and bring Israel out from this captivity. Give me Ezekiel 9:24.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 9 and verse 24. You mean Job 9:24?
Ezekiel.
You mean Job 9:24?
No,
The earth?
no, not that. Hold on. I meant Ezekiel though. Let me see. I'm maybe 25. Hold on a second. But mark them.
Which one do you want to do?
I did 25. Obviously, I'm doing.
Which one is it?
That's. The scripture that says the silent, make sure that the silent crying.
Ezekiel 9 and
9:4.
9 and 4.
Yes,
Is it
sir.
9 and 4?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
The
okay.
book of Ezekiel,
Okay, 9 and
chapter
4.
9 verse 4. And the Most High said unto him, Go
Right.
through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
Right, so we should sigh and cry for the abomination that's in the midst of us. In one perspective. You know what I'm saying? So when we see all the transgressions, homosexuality, the violence, the hypocrisy, when we see all those things going on, we should know that's wickedness. We should know that's wickedness. We should know that goes totally contrary to the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. But at the same time, we should know it's time for the Most High to come and take this kingdom down. Read on.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 9 and verse 5.
Mhm.
And to the elders he said in mine hearing, Go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity.
Right, so make sure when you see all these abominations going on, you just keep those things in perspective. You should be upset at all the sinfulness, the ease in which our people and the heathens commit these transgressions against the Most High. But at the same time, we should be spiritual enough to know that, hey, the increase of wickedness means that what the Most High is about to take his kingdom down, which is to our advantage. I read on. Go back to Genesis.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass that when the sun went down,
Okay. So the Most High told Abraham that way, that his seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and to serve them for 400 years, and shall come out with great substance after the iniquity of the Amorites have fulfilled. Okay, now let's go. Give me now Exodus 1.
the book of
As a matter
Exodus.
of fact, forget Exodus 1, give me Genesis 17 and 5.
Yes.
Genesis 17 and 19.
The book of Genesis, chapter 17
Verse 19.
and verse 19.
Right.
And the Most High said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
Mhm.
And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
Right. So the Most High letting Abraham know that his wife Sarah, in her old age, shall bear him a seed indeed. And the Most High was going to establish the same covenant that he made with Abraham with Isaac. And with his seed after him, which we know today is who? Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So the covenant that the Most High made with Abraham was made with Isaac and also with Jacob. Meaning what? The Most High made a covenant with us. Read on.
Verse 20. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation.
Right. So Abraham was concerned about his firstborn, Ishmael. What about him? Most I understand that you're going to establish a covenant with my seed after me, which is Isaac, and the seed after him. But what about Ishmael, my firstborn? Most I said, don't worry about Ishmael. I'm going to bless him too. 12 princes shall come out of Ishmael. He's a seed, so I'm going to bless him too. But read on.
Verse 20. As for Ishmael,
21.
to 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at the set time in the next year.
Right, so let him know. I understand you're concerned about Ishmael, your firstborn. And I'm going to bless Ishmael, your firstborn. But the covenant that I made with you, I'm going to establish not with Ishmael,
with Isaac.
but with Isaac. And we know Ishmael is the father of the so-called Arab nations. Understand? Which you see, they're in the land, they're living good, they're blessed with all riches and oil and all that, having their own nationality, their own identity for years, for generations. Whereas the seed that the Most High told Abraham was going to serve, the Most High told Abraham was going to serve the nation, the strangers, is what? Scattered through the four corners of the earth, serving strangers in a land that is not theirs. Just like you so-called Negros, Native Indians, so-called Latinos are doing right now. All those are clues to let you know further that we are the Hebrew Israelites, man. And we are that seed that the Most High said is going to serve the strange nations for 400 years, and afterwards shall come out with great substance. Is there more?
That's it.
So we see that our nation, or the seed that the Most High chose, is the seed of the seed from coming out of Isaac. Understand? Which you know is what? Let's get Genesis 20.
The book of Genesis, chapter 20.
Hold on, let me say that's what birth of Jacob and Esau. 25, 21.
The book of Genesis, chapter 25 and verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Most High for his wife, because she was barren. And the Most High was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Most High. And the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So there's always like a choice that's been made. Now, the Most High chose Isaac over Ishmael to establish a covenant that they made with Abraham. And now the Most High is about to choose Jacob over Esau to further establish that same covenant that we made with Abraham and Isaac. Read on.
And two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Mm-hmm.
And the one
What does it mean, two manner of people? What does it mean, two manner of people? Emphasis should be placed on that. Two manner mean what? Characteristics, personalities. You know, just you know what I mean? Just the way they operate. Just different. We're not all the same, you know what I mean? Even though we came from the same parents, but there's different spirit. The way we conduct ourselves. Two manner of people, two types of people. Read on.
And two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger, and the other people.
So what does it talk about? We should all be equal. We are all equal. No, we're not all equal. We may have equal rights under the law, according to the Most High, because the Most High doesn't have respect of persons. Read it again.
And two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
And one people shall be stronger than the other. That strength doesn't necessarily mean that's physical strength. It could mean spiritual strength. You know what I mean? It could mean a whole variety of different aspects of strength. And the elder shall serve the younger. Read on.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
So that's a description of the first person that the first child that was born from Rebecca. Read.
And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
Red all over like a hairy garment. So the scripture is giving a description of the first child. Read on.
And they called his name Esau.
Esau means the waste of the way. Read on.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
I wonder why they didn't describe the brother. There was no description of the brother. Why? Because the brother's complexion was normal. But Esau's complexion was unusual. Red all over like a hairy garment. Why is that? Because that was not the physical characteristics of anyone prior to Esau. Esau was born with pigmentation, which is a characteristic of the so-called white people today. Read on, some more.
And his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
And his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. So Jacob took hold of Esau's heel. That's very significant. And this should be very comforting to us, so-called Negroes who seen Asian Puerto Ricans as Hebrew Israelites. Regardless of what we're going through right now, the Most High said what? The elder shall serve the younger. And Jacob taking hold of Esau's heel is very symbolic. A prophetic what the Mosai said about, you know. That Apocrypha? Yes, sir. Get out.
The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 7.
2nd Ezra 6 verse 7. Read on.
Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times?
See, no, Ezra was one of those very inquisitive prophets of ours. And we need brothers like that, always inquiring of the Most High on Israel's behalf. And what did Ezra ask the Most High?
What shall be the parting asunder of the times?
What shall be the parting asunder of the time? What does that mean? Parting. What does parting mean? Divided. Asunder. Meaning what? A separate. What shall be the separation of one time or the separation of one error from another? An error of servitude or slavery versus an era of rulership and dominance. When is the slavery and servitude is going to end, Mosai? And when is Israel going to start ruling and dominating? That's what Israel, because during the time that Israel was asking, it was during the time of the Persian and Mede captivity. And next time we were talking about, you know, what? Yeah, we're probably talking about, probably 500 or so BC. I know we got a release in 538 BC. But you know, we're still lingering around there. Maybe you know, during that time somewhere around there, after the Babylonian captivity. Yes. So the prophet Ezra was asking the Moses, when is the slavery, the servitude going to end? When are we going to start ruling? Because right now we want to know the same thing in this present time. When is Esau kingdom rulership going to come to an end? When are we going to be brought up out of here, Mosai, and brought from the four corners of the earth? Read on.
Or when shall be the end of the first?
When shall be the end of the first? Meaning what? The rulership of the so-called white and the other nations. In Moab. Read on.
And the beginning of it that followeth.
And the beginning of it that followeth. When shall be the rulership of Esau come to an end? And the beginning of Jacob's rulership. Read on.
And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born.
From Abraham unto Isaac. That's a lineage. That's a so-called passing of the baton of rulership, or the re-establishing of the covenant. The covenant the Most High made with Abraham got ratified, renewed, and passed on to Isaac, and then passed on to Jacob. Read on.
From Abraham unto Isaac. Mm-hmm. When Jacob and Esau were born.
When Jacob and Esau were born, we just read it in Genesis 25, verse 21. When Jacob and Esau were born, read on.
Were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau.
Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. So you see, it's like we're reading right here in the time of the Persian captivity, Persian and Mede captivity. It's like hundreds of years after the birth of Jacob. So you know, see, history got passed down verbally, anecdotally, and in writing, documented. So we all have to be mindful of our history, man.
I got you.
What you got?
I got you. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations.
Right. We got. I had it in mind too. Remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. So we have to be mindful of these things so we can know what to expect in the present time and in the future. What did the scripture say, man? The end of one is the beginning of the other. Read on.
The book of 2 Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world.
Esau is the end of the world. The so-called white man, which you know is Esau, is the end of the servitude or slavery of our people. Esau is the end of the world. That doesn't mean the end of the world physically, because the world will not be destroyed physically and entirely. I mean, of course, it's going to be destruction and reconstruction, but the earth will always be inhabited. The earth will always be inhabited. Understand, there will be destruction of places and destruction of people, but the earth will always be inhabited. Esau is the end of the world, meaning what? The end of the rulership or the political and economical construct as we know it today. The dominance shall come to an end, even though a lot of our people don't even see that. That's why a lot of our people support so-called white supremacy. Always trying to get a piece of the American dream, a piece of the American pie. Instead of coming to their nationality and their heritage and trying to prepare themselves for future rulership, you're trying to get a piece of this kingdom, of this fallen kingdom. You're trying to get a piece of something that's coming into destruction, because of they're destroyed for lack of knowledge of themselves, lack of knowledge of their history, lack of knowledge of their ancestry. That's why these things are so far-fetched from them. What do you got?
The book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils.
Right. That's what's going to happen to this place, this wonderful, wonderful place called America, the greatest country on earth, economically, at least, politically, militarily. Babylon, modern day Babylon. The Babylon the Great is fallen and shall be what? The habitation of foul spirits. That's what's going to inhabit this place after the Most High is done with it. After the Most High has brought his people, Israel, because America is the modern day Babylon, but it's also the modern day Egypt. Because all those two countries are just in captivity. Just like we were in captivity in Egypt for 400 years, we are also in America, the modern day Babylon, with the same amount of someone else to die. And just like they brought us out of Egypt with great substance, and the Most High judge a nation, the same thing is going to happen to America and other nations that had us in slavery for those number of years. Is there more?
The book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
You can know that's not talking about the ancient Babylon, because that didn't happen to ancient Babylon. Even though those ancient Babylon, of course, got destroyed, the kingdom got destroyed, but they didn't become the habitation of foul spirits and all that. So you has to be talking about Besides, you know, the book of Revelation was written years after the Babylon, I'm saying, years after ancient Babylon. You know what I'm saying? And that's talking about, read it again.
Yes, sir. The book of Revelation, chapter 18 and verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen.
Babylon the Great is fallen. Read on.
Is
Not
fallen.
ancient Babylon, but Babylon the Great, modern day Babylon. Read on.
Is fallen.
That's a prophecy, not a reflection of history. Because that time, that was John the Revelator on the island of Patmos. And we're talking about, you know, like 195 or so AD. During that time, years after the Mashiach Yahushua, you know, got crucified and got resurrected, went back to the Most High. You know, John the Revelator, you know, getting revelation from the Most High, you know, and prophesying what's going to happen to future Babylon. John the Revelator wasn't talking about ancient history during this time. He was talking about prophecy. We're reading right there in Revelation 18. Understand? That was years after. Ancient Babylon was like 600 or so BC. Understand? John the Revelator was like 195 AD. We're talking about 600, like we're talking about way after the ancient Babylon. So says you can't say shall. The word shall implies what? Read it again.
And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
Right. So it's talking about what is seen in this present time, but you know, what is seen as if it's happening right then and there, but it's talking about what's going to happen in the future. Understand that the modern day Babylon, which is America. Understand that that's a prophecy that John the Revelator saw concerning modern day Babylon, which is America. All right, go back to Genesis.
You said Exodus.
Exodus. You're right. Exodus 1.
The book
So we just read about the chronology, the generation from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. Right. Actually, go back to Esdras. Finish up at Esdras.
The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
Right. Esau is the end of the world, man. You know what? Esau is the end of the rulership, or the dominance, economically and politically, in this time. Understand? And then what? Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. We are going to be the new superpower on this earth. But Hashem, Hamashiach, Yahushua. Understand? So that's a comfort that we should take. And know that hold on a second, let me Isaiah. I think it's in Isaiah 60. The good news
That's 61.
61?
Yes.
Yeah.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 61 and verse 1. The Spirit of the Most High Power is upon me, because the Most High hath anointed me to preach good tidings.
See that? This is Isaiah talking, because Isaiah also existed, lived during the time of the Babylonian captivity. And on the Most High showed Isaiah a lot of things. And Isaiah said, what? The Spirit of the Most High is upon him, because the Most High hath anointed him. Read it again.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 61 and verse 1. The Spirit of the Most High Power is upon me, because the Most High hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek.
Good tidings. What's good tidings? What? Good news. Unto the meek. We are the meek of the Most High. The ones of us being downtrodden, humiliated, berated, discriminated against, oppressed. We know hope. We are the meek of the Most High. Read on.
He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
Right. So we are. That's what we do when we go and teach our people. He have sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. We are brokenhearted, man, because we tried everything to know success, to proclaim liberty to the captives, let them know that, hey, even though we're in captivity, oppressed, confined to the ghettos and slums, hey, things are looking good because we are the chosen nation of the Most High. Read on. As a matter of fact, wrap up Ezra's. Let's finish the last precept of Ezra's. Then go to Exodus 1.
Yes, sir. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So what it's saying, what? Get me also Lamentation 4:22.
Yes,
Esau is the end of the world. You know what? When Esau's rulership comes to the end, that's when and then Israel starts rising. That's when Kwame Yeshurun is going to take effect.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished.
What does that mean? The punishment of our iniquity. Because what? What's iniquity? Give me our 59 and 22. Our 59 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Isaiah.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 59 and verse 2. But your iniquities. Is that one of them?
Yeah.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 59 and verse 1. Behold, the Most High's hand is not shortened that it cannot save.
Yeah, the Most High's hand is not shortened that it cannot save. What does that mean? We should always put our trust in the Most High and stop relying on outside forces. Stop relying on our own forces. But put our trust in the Most High. Remember that the Most High was always there for our forefathers in the times of their atrocity, in the time of their hardship. He's our rock. He's our refuge. And we should try to reestablish that, that connection with the Most High. Put our trust in Him. The Most High's hand is not shortened that it cannot save us. Whatever situation we're going through, always put your trust in the Most High. Call upon the Most High. Acknowledge your transgression. Keep His laws, statutes, and commandments, and call upon the Most High for help. Read on.
Neither his ear heavy that it cannot save.
Neither is what? Ear?
Neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear.
Read it again.
Behold, the Most High's hand is not shortened that it cannot save. Neither his ear heavy that it cannot hear.
Right. Neither are his ears heavy that he cannot hear. The Most High don't hear it because you ain't keeping His laws, statutes, and commandments. The Most High want to hear those who keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. Neither are his ears heavy that He cannot hear you. So if you call upon the Most High, He's not answering your prayers, it's because what? You are not keeping His laws, statutes, and commandments. You know what? Proverbs 8:1. Proverbs 8:1. 9:9.
18 verse 13.
18 and 30.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yes, and this one is like you could be up there.
I guess. Turn around. In happy moments, praise Yahweh. In difficult moments, seek Yahweh. In quiet moments, trust Yahweh. In every moment, thank Yahweh. Okay, kind. But you know what? The most of whatever you're going through, the Most High should always be there in your thoughts. Read it, turn around again. Let me see. In happy moments, praise Yahweh. Because you know what? You're happy because the Most High bless you. In difficult moments, seek the Most High. Right. Going through difficult times, the Most High is your help. Seek the Most High. In quiet moments, trust Yahweh. Right? In every moment, thank the Most High. Bashama Shawasha. God.
You were looking for.
This is 18th Proverbs are the sinners. The most of the sinners.
Oh, you mean John 9:31?
No, it's in Proverbs.
Yes, the book of John.
I know John 12:1 is also one. The Psalms of the Proverbs.
The book of John, chapter 9 and verse 31. Now we know that the Most High is not sinners, but if any man be a worshipper of the Most High, and doth his will, him he heareth. Yeah, brothers and sisters, what the elder is saying is that as people of the Most High, we have to keep his commandments. Many of us, the Most High cannot answer our prayers because we are in sin. Because we are not keeping God's commandments. That's why we have to do our best as teachers, as students of the law, to keep God's commandments to the best of our abilities.
It's all right. Let's give Exodus 1.
Yes, sir. The book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob.
See, the Most High, this is no, you know, the Most High's prophecies that they made, or the promise that they made to Abraham, that his seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them for 400 years. Read on.
Verse 2. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zabulon, and Benjamin, then Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, and all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. The book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them out of the land.
See that? So Jacob and 70 souls went down into Egypt. Of course, Joseph was already in Egypt because his brothers had sold him to the Midianites, who then sold him to the Egyptians. So now, this is our fulfillment of the prophecy. They had found favor with Pharaoh when Joseph was on there. But that Pharaoh died, and a new Pharaoh came up, which didn't know anything. I didn't regard the legacy of Joseph. So he didn't show any respect unto Joseph's relatives, which was Jacob's children and so on and so forth. Plus, they became suspicious of them because they were foreigners. Because just like today, the dominant ethnic group or race in a nation always want to have control. Or the more populated race always want to have control. And that's what happened. The Egyptians are different nationalities different nationalities or races amongst them, not as the Israelites. And they wanted to maintain the rulership. So they were concerned that the Israelites be so numerous. Because the Egyptians had many wars also with the so-called Ethiopians. If you can show me a map up there or something, and like a map, with Egypt, with the River Nile and all that, extended down into Africa, where the so-called River Nile is and all, down in Ethiopia. The Egyptians had made wars with different nations in so-called Africa. So they were concerned that the Israelites might want to collaborate with those nations. Give me one of the pointers to water. This Cairo right there. This River Nile right there. This River Nile extends all the way, River Nile is probably on a river that they say that it flows northward. It flows from the south up northward up to they call it the delta that flows into the Mediterranean Sea. And so they were concerned that the Israelites would link up with the Nubians and all that different Hamite groups, Hamite nations, and help to overthrow Egyptian and Pharaoh, and then get them whatever they like, because they wanted the Israelites. Read it again.
The book of Exodus.
Read verse 10.
Verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
Let us deal wisely with them. Crafty. Let's take crafty counsel with them. You know that term like in Psalms 83? Let us take crafty counsel with them. Deal wisely with them. Lest them multiply. See that? They didn't want us to multiply too much. The same thing going on right now in modern day Egypt. They don't want us to multiply too much. That's why you see they're killing us off. Every chance to get. The so-called the cops and all, because we know these cops, man. We know these cops. These cops are Ku Klux Klan. That's how the police came into existence anyway. These guys are all Ku Klux Klan, man. Right. Their job was to hunt down our so-called runaway slaves. So these guys are the same ones you see in the military, in government, kneeling on our necks, in broad daylight, as if they have a right to do that, shooting us down, man. We call them when you call them to help us out in a situation, you're not gonna help in a situation like more often than not, you're gonna end up dead. So that's what they do. Just like they try to keep our population down back then in ancient Egypt, they're doing the same thing today, trying to keep our population down. Less them multiply. Read 10 again.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1 and verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply.
Lest they multiply. Deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. They say, let's kill them. Let's find a way to confine them. That's why they put them in prison so much. That's why the prison population is so high. 95% black, 5% white. Right. You know what I'm saying? America is the highest population of incarcerated people on this earth. Man. It's supposed to be the most advanced country on this earth, the richest country on this earth. But they have the highest percentage of the population in prison than any other nation on this earth. And the highest percentage of that those populated people, our people. That's how they deal wisely with us.
Also, they say land of the free.
Land of the free. You say land of the free. Free for them. When they say the land of the free, they weren't talking about us.
Yeah.
They were talking about themselves. But they got that.
I had a precept, but I wanted to say a little short thing. I had a buddy, he just asked me that. He asked me, he said,
Give him my brother Mike.
yeah.
I had a precept and also something to say. I had a conversation with a buddy. I was waking up and I asked him, how he felt about the condition here in America. And he was like, aren't we free, right? Like, we're free. I can do whatever I want. We're free. So I had to make him think about it. I said, okay, you're free, right? So I was like, well, go ahead and jump in the car and drive down the street and run a stop sign. He's like, no, like, you can't do that. And I was like, why? He was like, there's a law. So I say the law stops you, from doing something, right? So he was like, yeah. So I said, that's restricting your freedom. So I gave him a couple of more, to try to feed him. But I had to explain to him that we're not free here in America. That's why all these rules are here in place here in America to keep you in check. You know what I mean? It's to show you that you're not free. You're not free to go wherever you want and do whatever you want. So that's not true to say that we're totally free.
So most of the laws that society enact were enacted to curtail us, to contain us. Understand? Because most of those laws, they throw the books at us when we violate them.
Right.
But when Esau violates the law, like some minor things, like say for example, I know it's wrong to do certain things, like say for example, a young child go shoplifting. It's steal like a shirt or something.
Right.
If that's Esau, you know what they do? They call the parents and say, you know what? We call the child stealing.
Yeah.
And they send them home. If the old child has Jake, he going to prison.
Yeah.
That child going to prison.
Yeah.
So laws are made to contain us. Understand? While Esau does get a slap in the wrist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you're right. So this freedom that they're talking about don't pertain to us.
Right.
Talking about their freedom.
Yeah.
And I also had a precept pertaining to how they treat us when they come against us crafty. I had a precept for that as well.
Oh, what they got?
Deuteronomy 28 and 50.
Read it.
Right.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 50.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 50. A nation of fierce consonants which shall not regard the person of the old or show favor to the young, and shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed.
Right, that's talking about the nation the Most High was going to send against us for keeping his law, for breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments. It's talking about slavery. Understand? Us going to slavery. They had no regard for us, man, for the young or the old. They had no regard for the young child or for the elderly. So they destroyed us. Whether we planted, they took the young child, our children, they got sold to a different plantation. The mothers got raped, daughters got raped, our fathers got killed and all that. So that's what I was talking about. Now go back to Exodus.
The book of Exodus,
10 again. Yeah.
chapter 1 and verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Right, and let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. They want to keep our population down by any means necessary. That's why even the food they give us to poison us, so we don't. So our life expectancy isn't too high. We get crap medical care. We can't get proper medical treatment. that when they're falling out in a war, whenever there's a war, they're drawn also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So they were trying, back then they were trying to contain us, keep us in the land to be slaves, to build up their empire. That's their intention. You know?
Verse 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Right. So the more they afflict us, the same thing happening right now. The more they afflict, they're amazed at our resilience, man. The more they afflict us, kill us, incarcerate us, but yet we keep multiplying. You know what I'm saying? Now let's jump to verse 23.
The book of
chapter 2, verse 23.
The book of Exodus, chapter 2 and verse 23. And it came to pass, in process of time, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto the Most High by reason of the bondage.
Right, so the king of Egypt died, but the Israelites were still in slavery. No matter if there's a change in presidency, we're still going to be oppressed. Trump was a president a few months ago. Our people is catching hell from the so-called white supremacists. Biden's as a president. Guess what? We're still being shot down in the street. We're still being shot down. So the Pharaoh died. The Pharaoh who was alive, was oppressing our people, the Israelites. But he died, while our people still sighing and crying for the abomination. It don't matter who's in rulership. They may give you the impression that they're different from the others, but the one who preceded them. But it's at the end of the day, generally speaking, it's the same treatment. So we have to be mindful of that, to put our trust in who? The Most High, and not any political system or political leader. So it came to pass, the process of time, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. So they sighed, the bondage, the slave was too hard. Well, people still go through hardship, man. And they cried, and the cry came up unto the Most High by reason of the bondage. And the Most High heard their prayer. Why did the Most High heard their prayer? This is a fulfillment of the prophecy that the Most High made with Abraham way back in Abraham's time in Genesis 15:13. The Most High said what? They were going to serve a strange nation for 400 years. Right. On that nation, the Most High will judge, and our people will come out of great substance. So this is about to happen right now. Read on, verse 24.
Verse 24. And the Most High heard their groaning, and the Most High remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob.
See that? The Most High heard the groaning, and the Most High remembered the covenant that they made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Shem Yahushua. Read on.
Verse 25. And the Most High looked upon the children of Israel, and the Most High had respect unto them.
And the Most High looked upon the children of Israel, and the Most High had respect unto them. See? But guess what they did though? They cried unto the Most High.
Right.
And the Most High remembered the covenant that they made with our forefathers. So we have to cry unto the Most High, so the Most High can remember the covenant that He made with our forefathers. Just like we cried unto the Most High during the time of the Egyptian captivity, we got to do the same thing today. Cry unto the Most High, so the Most High can have respect unto us, and remember the covenant that He made with our forefathers. What they got?
The book of Hosea, chapter 14 and verse 1. O Israel, return unto the Most High thy power, for thou hast fallen by thy iniquity.
See that? O Israel, return unto the Most High your power, because you have fallen by your iniquity. But first, our people got to know that they're the Israelites. First, they got to know that they are the Israelites. That's why that's how we teach our people. You so-called Negroes, West Indian, Haitian, Puerto Rican, Native Indians. Read the scripture, man. I know that all these things are going through are the same things the Most High prophesied that Israelites are going through.
Right.
Nobody in this earth are going through these things that we're going through. The way the Most High described them before they even happened. So, get me Deuteronomy 7.
The book of
As a matter of fact, give me Deuteronomy 32 and 8. And after that, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap it up with that, and then we'll continue the Most High willing next week on this topic.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations.
Remember the Most High said. Let me see if we can find Genesis 15:13. Let's see that because the sins of because the sins of the Amorites were fulfilled.
The book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 16.
Right.
But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
Right. So the Most High is a man of war, but he's also a man of vision. The Most High is not reactive. The Most High is proactive. The Most High plan things in advance. The Most High ain't playing checkers. The Most High playing on the chess. Understand? The Most High see things way out. Many moves ahead. I'm saying that because the Most High planned the establishing of Israel as a nation in coordination with what's going on in other countries, in what's going on in the land of Canaan and those Amorites and the transgressions. And the Most High said, well, you know what? That's enough of these guys, man. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled. When it's full, it's time for them to go. No, go to Deuteronomy 32 and 8. We'll wrap it up with that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. Because the Most High created all nations of this earth. And all nations got their own territories, their own land, and so on. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. Read on.
When he separated the sons of Adam.
When he separated the sons of Adam. And we know you can go back to Genesis 11 for that. When Nimrod and our mighty hunter, so to speak, and all the nations were speaking one language and were on one accord, building these these so-called high rises. You know what I mean? The Most High said, that can't go. Can't happen. So the Most High confounded the languages. The Most High confounded the language. Language. The actual one called ancient tongue I'll be referring to. The holy tongue. And that's been different languages got created. The Most High the different nations at that time speaking different languages which they never spoke before. But the Hebrew language was obtained with our people. What is that?
When he separated the sons of Adam.
Right. When he separated the sons of Adam, so the Most High separated the different nations. So the Most High didn't want us to be in one accord like that.
He said the bound.
So when they're talking about this melting pot.
I got you.
And that's our people too. That's our problem with our people. You want to integrate. That's why we can't achieve anything. We got bamboozled, man. Because all the different nations on this earth, they try to have their own identity, their own, ethnicity, their own. Even when they're a part of a larger population, they maintain their own identity. They have their own economy. Of course, some of them will go so-called mainstream. Look at the so-called China, where you got Chinatown. And they have their own community. Especially the so-called Jews. They have their own identity, and they keep the money within themselves. What do you got?
Nice. We can add even Patel, Singh, those East Indians. They have their own enclaves where they live together.
Right.
Like Apu. Pretty much, they have their own stores where pretty much their money is circulated among themselves. And they have this precept.
Where?
The book of Ezra, chapter 4 and verse 1. Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the most high power of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers, and said unto them, Let us build with you, for we seek your power.
Right. So this is after after we got released from the Persian captivity in 538 BC. And I said, we were now in the process of rebuilding the temple that the Babylonians had destroyed. The ancient Babylonians had destroyed. So these different nations, when they see that the adversary, enemies of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or what so-called Negroes, when they saw us on one accord, trying to reestablish ourselves and rebuild, they pretended to be done with us. They pretended to want to assist us in our endeavor. But of course, they were just trying to infiltrate. So that they can annihilate, infiltrate, to destroy. So whenever you see you got something going on and an enemy trying to be a part of it, be very suspicious of them. What does people say? Never trust the enemy. Whenever you see you got something going on and they pretend to be, or we want to lend some assistance, or take your establishment to a so-called higher level, know that they're trying to take over. Read on now.
As ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Azarhaddon, king of Assur, which brought us up hither. But Zerubbabel and Joshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, Ye have nothing to do with us to build an house unto our power.
See that? And that's the attitude we should take. We should discern. We should be men of discernment, men and women of discernment, and know that whenever we see the enemies trying to infiltrate our organization, that they mean just the same thing happened with our so-called civil rights organizations, the Black Panther Party.
So, officer, can you give the picture with the March on Washington, when our people were with the enemies?
Whenever you see them, whenever you see them trying to be a part of it, they try to be a part of it. We us the sympathize that we often portray ourselves to be. We feel so good and so so we need to accept them.
Even where Brother Martin Luther King were with the fake Jews walking hand in hand.
Right. And then
we can get the Black Lives Matter.
And then they pacify you. And then they take it in the direction that they wanted to go. That's been a history, man. The so-called civil rights movement. Looks like the NAACP. Who formed the NAACP? So-called Jews formed the NAACP.
A fire upon them boys. A fire.
They come with their own agenda.
You see him behind it there? You see
What
the
is-
fake Jews?
Yes, I see them. Yeah, I see them right there.
Yeah.
They pretend to be a part of all of it. Pretend to be showing
They
empathy.
got the lady too. Yeah.
Pretend to be a part showing empathy. But of course, they're just trying to infiltrate us. We try with the march of civil rights. Next thing you know, they're down there. The infiltrators want to take into so that's why the civil rights movement was also got caught up into socialism, communism, and all that. It's supposed to be a civil rights movement for the rights of black people. And all of a sudden became a political movement
Right.
to increase in numbers and fight against so-called democracy.
I wonder if they would have let him in the synagogue holding his hand.
Yeah, I'm
They
saying.
still would have never let him in.
Go back to Deuteronomy 32.
Yes, sir.
Wrap it up with that.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations the inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam,
When it's separated, read on.
he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
So the Most High had different nations in their territories based on the anticipated population of Israel, because we weren't even a nation yet when the Most High was dividing geographically the territories. We wasn't even established yet. Read on.
For the Most High's portion is his people.
But the Most High's portion is what?
Is his people.
What does it mean? The Most High's portion is his people. It's the chosen nation. The Most High portion one. It's another way for the Most High's chosen nation is his people. But aren't all people the Most High's people because he created all people, right?
Right.
But letting you know right there, even though the Most High created all people, there's one particular people on this earth that the Most High holds nearest to him. The only nation gives his laws, statutes, and commandments to. The Hebrew Israelites. Wrap it off at Amos 3.
The book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 1. Hear this word that the Most High hath spoken against you, O children of Israel,
Hear this word that the Most High has spoken against you, O children of Israel. Read on.
against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth.
Wow.
Therefore,
Is that literal? That's not literal. The Most High said, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. The Most High said, he only knows the Israelites. Of all the families of the earth, of all the nations of this earth, he only knows the nation of Israel. What does it mean he only knows the nation of Israel? That word know. Understand that you have to understand the context of what that word is saying.
Intimate. Close.
Know, you only have I known of all the nations of this earth. Meaning what?
Associate.
That's one they say now. Yeah. Dealing with, you know what I mean? And you can, all that is true. What?
the book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Most High your power, and none else.
Yeah? You shall know that the Most High is in the midst of Israel, and is our power, and none else. He's not in the midst of any other nation. And he's not the power of any other nation. He's the power of Israel and Israel only. He only gave this Bible to Israel only. Understand? Even though they we see what's going on earth today, the so-called Christian, they pirated the old thing, took over the old thing. But you know they're all spreading lies. So now we are, we are we go and speak the truth. Let's like we're going up against a wall. Nobody believes us until the Most High show them until they search things out for themselves and see that we are the Hebrew Israelites, the chosen nation, the Most High, by Shamash Kawashai. So we're gonna wrap it up with that. Most High willing, I continue with part 2 of this because there are more things I wanted to cover on this, but due to time constraint, trying to get brothers to come earlier, so I have to read so we can start at least at the latest 8:30, 8 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So when it's time for my brother to come 8 o'clock, 8:30, so we can get things started, man. So we can go through these topics about Shamash Kawashai. So we're gonna wrap it up this evening. We'll wrap it up right now. Don't forget tomorrow, the Most High willing, we have a Shabbat service with Chief Minister Shalom, 12 noon Eastern time. You can log on to YouTube live stream. And don't forget also later on, our brothers are getting ready to go to camp right now to edify the people with the street teaching by Shamash Kawashai. But
Israel Shalom. We would like to invite all of you to the Feast of Weeks, commonly called Feast of Pentecost, that will be held here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, on May 16th. Let's see the fun that we had last year very quick. Only one play for us.
This is your minister, Mr. Shalom from the Light of Zion, saying Shalom and Ashar, Chag, Shavuot, which is Happy Feast of Weeks. Happy Pentecost to all Israelites born, all that have repented to the Lord, set the commandments of the Most High God. We're out here, 2937 West Broad Boulevard, out here in the parking lot. Man. So, in the time that we're living in, during this COVID-19, the park is shut down, but the High Holy Day is still on. So we got to find a way to keep it. And as you can see, we're enjoying ourselves. The children are playing. The spirit of the Most High, the spirit of brotherhood, the spirit of nationality. The Most High has brought us back to our true covenant. So we're going to keep his laws. We're not going to let nothing stop us. So, shalom to all the family of where you are. Hopefully you keep the laws and commandments in your various cities, in your various countries, in your various towns. And don't let no one take away your laws and commandments from you ever again. We're going to keep Torah, right? Until the chariots come and get us, we're going to keep doing this work. Right? So say shalom to all the family. Hallelujah.
Hear what I say.
And Madiam Wapanya Yarashlam, stand and face Jerusalem. Shayar, Psalms 133. Shayar, Ama Alwa, Nadawad, Ana, Ma, Tawab, Wama, Naayam, Shabbat, Akyam, Gam, Yakar, Kashaman, Atawab, Al, Araash, Yarad, Al, Azakwan, Aran, Yarad, Al, Paya, Marawak Yawa, Katal, Karamwan, Shayara, Al, Araya, Sayawan, Aya, Sham, Kazawa, Yahawa, Abaraka, Ayawam, Al, Awalam, Olam,
I Olam,
Hashem,
Hashem,
Hamashiach,
Hamashiach,
Yahushua, the water,
Aman.
Aman.
The book of Psalm, chapter 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that went down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Most High commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahawashai, Thawada, Famyad, Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Yahushua.
Okay, so pay the rest. Pay the rest.
Yeah, coming through. Yes. I'm live.
No,
You are watching? I'm live. Now Yahweh Ba'Shem Mashiach Yahushua Barakathum to the nation of Israel. We out here keeping the Pentecost, the light of Zion, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 2937 West Broward Boulevard. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Show me what you're looking for.
You get him? You get him? Able to make it, it will be a pleasure to see you. If you are not able to make it, that's fine. We will live stream the service, partake in the service wherever you are. Israel, it is going to be a joyous occasion. If you are able to come to South Florida, come, because that feast is an entire day, is a feast for an entire day. We will start at 11 a.m. until X the next day. Meaning we may finish at 9 p.m. It depends. But Israel know that we are your